I would have turned down that side trip.
And,
Okay.
and hills this high. And there's black ants and red ants, and they don't like each other.
So you got multiple.
Freeze take you here or what?
Well, we lived there during World War II.
I think you'd rather have been in Japan. You'd rather have been in the Pacific, I think.
Well, I wasn't old enough.
Yeah, I know. So the idea of wilderness, the Sinai wilderness or wilderness of Sinai, what do you think of when you think of nomads? What is a nomad?
A nomad had no home.
Okay,
No permanent address.
no permanent address.
I don't even think he had a suitcase. And just be whatever he could carry in his knapsack.
There you go. There you go. When Abraham and the other founding fathers of Israel were out in the wilderness, just moving their flocks of sheep from place to place, they were literally in the wilderness by themselves, right? We are comfortable living in cities and towns. How many of you grew up in the country?
In the country?
And when I mean country, I mean with a K, country. The kind where there was, you didn't, well, if you were fortunate enough to have an outhouse, I mean,
There's always
exactly. We weren't so snobby that we could afford an outhouse. No.
Oh. And one part of it has 120 sections. That's
Well,
a farm.
Yeah, when I'm thinking of country, I'm thinking that there's no neighbors. I mean, you've got to go 5 miles until you get to your first neighbor, right? Yeah, well, exactly. So the idea of being alone. How many of you enjoy the idea of being alone?
I'm all about that. I like
Okay.
I like
Four kids come home or a couple.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Then nobody's gonna tell me what to do if I'm all alone. They're not gonna be saying, why did you do that?
There you go.
I did it because I could.
There you go. Go put some pants on, Mom. Or that's Dad, sorry. The idea of just literally being alone, being out in the nothing, nothing to distract you, no parties, no meetings, no. How many of you have ever just worked in the field? Or been out in the fields? There's no one else there. It's just you. And what's the downside of it just being you?
Well,
If you need help, you're by yourself.
You,
Bring your cell phone.
no, yeah, exactly. Did you bring your cell phone? Yeah.
Just help get out.
plowing or running the combine. If I do a combine, there would have been somebody on that section of land.
Right.
But if he's out there plowing
You're by yourself.
with a 30-foot wide plow, and you're sitting on a international, I don't know if they even make them called the W9 diesel. And it had lights all over it. It kept you warm. Both at night, it got cooler. And it was quite an experience. I was about 17 years old, I guess.
Right.
And you look up at the sky, and there ain't nothing between you and the sky, because back then there wasn't many airplanes flying around.
Right.
No drones.
No space stations going
No.
over? No, not that I ever knew.
When we look at Egypt, And the people, the Lord's people that were in Egypt at that period of time, what was one of the things that they missed about Egypt?
The subway.
Mass transit. There were camels. You catch a camel to anywhere. Is that it?
The food, I think, and the being not have to look and hunt for their own food. is
They, you know,
provided for them.
when they had manna, what was it they said that they hated about it? It just needs a little garlic. Literally leeks, onions, garlic. That was literally what they said. It just throw some leeks in it. It'd be okay. What is what would you say? They missed the camaraderie of civilization. Does that make sense? And the kids last night went to a concert, and we got to keep the baby last night. And the fact that they wanted to go out and do things. I reminded them that their mother would have just taken them with her to the concert, and they were like, "Yeah, but that was just weird." So,
And it's weird for everybody around you
Ex-
because
exactly.
either you really like the baby or you really wish the baby would go home.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure Kay loves it.
Yeah. So, but the idea of needing to just get out and be entertained, things of that nature. Why do we like entertainment?
Takes your mind off of what you're troubled with or what's going on in your life.
Thank you very much. That was very well stated.
Thank you. Do I get
You
a
get-
regular prize?
You get a cookie.
Okay.
Kathy gets a cookie.
You're like Drew Carey.
Yeah.
That's a donut.
There you go.
Get a piece of cake.
You can go get another piece of cake.
Hey.
Charles
Hey.
can't have any. He's got a sugar problem. So
Yeah.
just throwing it out there for you, Charles, just so she won't do it for you. So
Now we get to take the rest of it home.
there you go. There you go. He's got it figured out. What was the first thing God did with the people when they left Egypt? It's on the screen here if you're wondering. In the first month of the second year after their departure from the land of Egypt, the Lord told Moses in the wilderness of Sinai. So where are they at?
In the wilderness of Sinai.
In the wilderness of Sinai. What does that do to a people used to having, and I say this loosely, a 24-hour party cycle? Now, even though they were in slavery, they still had culture and society. If you remember, one of the things that was problematic is that they were very ingrained in the Egyptian culture. And the Egyptian culture was very cultural. That's why we call it culture. What was it in that culture that they enjoyed?
Being together. and
Being
having other
together,
people to talk to.
limited opulence,
The ease
I mean,
of civilization.
the ease of civilization. If you just want to get leeks and garlic, what do?
Go pick some.
You just go get some leeks and garlic, right? The concept or the idea of variety. You can imagine their lives were full of variety. I'm not to say it wasn't a difficult life, but you didn't have thousands of Egyptians falling over from lack of health, etc. They lived a day-to-day existence. They weren't a throwaway society within a society. They were a servant class. Do you kill your servants?
Usually, who do their work.
Exactly. You don't kill your servants. The idea that they were working and living in this society, if you remember some of the first requests from Moses was, let us just go out and worship for a couple of weeks or for a week, and then we'll come back. And maybe we could turn this into an annual thing. Yeah, how does that work for you? And God was very adamant that no, that's not the plan. That was a compromise that was thrown out by Moses. It wasn't the plan. But we eventually get them out of Egypt. Big life change, amazing life change. Um, how many of you have ever been to church camp?
The church plan.
Church camp,
I went to scout camp.
scout camp.
That's what
Well,
it said.
scout camp isn't going to work as well.
Okay.
Church camp, yeah, and that's gone now.
It's gone.
What was church camp for? And on top of that, what was it? What was a revival for, or a tent revival? You guys remember those?
Mhm.
My kids wouldn't have a clue what that was.
To get closer to God.
And if I even mentioned a brush arbor, they'd be, "What's a brush arbor?" You know. What were those things? What are those events? What draws them all together into one picture?
Or teaching about God and you're feeling like you're trying to connect.
Wanted to get away from your parents for the week. Read out a portion.
Did you have TV and
No.
and all that kind of stuff at
Cell
church
phone,
camp?
Nintendo.
What was the
Know
pur-
what TV was?
exactly? The I
We had bonfires and sang Kumbaya.
exactly. Kumbaya, my Lord. Yeah, I remember every Friday night when we had church camp, um, we had to have somebody had to do brush duty, which means go out and gather brush for the bonfire. I always missed it. I never had to go gather the brush. But I do remember that I had to be there, present, available, and my job was to take kids who had stars in their eyes and convince them that God's cool. Does God need me trying to prove that he's cool?
But I'm sorry.
No, I'm on board with you. If I'm your hype man, you got problems. You've got some personality issues within the core. You need to kind of get something figured out, I guess. The idea, one of the things that I really didn't agree with when working in youth ministry, in children's ministries, youth ministry specifically, was one of the things they would say is, if you believe you could play baseball for God, come on up and we're
Wow.
going to pray about it.
Wow.
How many of you would love to play baseball for God? What is the FCA? Thank you. Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I don't know if it's still there. It used to be across the street from the Royal Stadium.
Still there.
Yeah.
It's got a sign.
Yep.
It's release, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
they got a sign, the sign's still there.
Yeah, and the idea behind the Fellowship of Christian Athletes was it was an organization for athletes where they could go and share their faith with one another. Is that a legitimate cause and a legitimate concern? Oh, absolutely. Why would there not be a Fellowship of Christian Athletes? And then the idea that you would share your faith with your friends, with the people that you work with, it just makes sense overall. The idea of getting away from the normalcy of your culture and moving towards something else that's bigger and broader and more important than your general focus. Does that make sense? Do we enjoy being pulled out of our day to day and into the realm of here is God? For some people, can it be shocking to just be going through your normal day, and then all of a sudden you're confronted with who? Starts with a G, has an O, and a D.
God.
Thank you. We can go through our normal day and then be thinking everything's fine. We're in our own bubble. We're interacting with other bubbles. We're all happy bubbles. Woohoo, happy bubbles. And then what happens?
Somebody burst your bubble.
Somebody burst your bubble. And it can be a bad, it can be someone trying to actually mess up your day or someone forcing you to a different reality. But can sometimes we run across God and it just stop our focus? What does it force you to confront?
Your feelings about God.
Am I doing what is right?
Like going on a retreat. I mean, I probably some of us have done, I remember in Nashville, right, was a deacon and we did have this deacon retreat and we went up to Conception Abbey near Maryville.
Mhm.
And for a weekend, and that was a culture shock. I mean, you're with the monks and we had a very simple room with, just the necessities in it. And the meals were simple, but it was a lovely weekend. It was a time to just be quiet and still and put your focus somewhere else,
I was
focus on God.
I was listening to Theo Vaughn. He's a comedian and he does this podcast. And he had on a young man who was Amish. And he was just interviewing, what does it mean to be Amish in today's life, right? And he said, what gets you in trouble with your family? And basically it came down to, we hide a cell phone in the barn. And we sneak out to the barn and we play games. Or we use the phones, etc.
Who pays that bill?
Yeah.
Just wondering.
Well, I'm sure those are, yeah. You can get an iPhone that works without having a monthly bill.
Okay,
Um,
I'll work on that.
yeah. You can at least you can hide the bill anyway. You can buy minutes and things is what I'm saying. When that is the biggest problem with your culture is that your children are sneaking out to use cell phones. But what is unique about that? In their culture, what is bad about a cell phone?
Outside influence.
Outside
The outside world.
outside influences, right? People are influencing you. And the Amish are actually pretty good about that. If you don't want to be a part of an Amish community, you can always leave. There's not a problem with that. Now, does that not mean everyone would be sad? Well, they would be sad, etc. But realistically, the Amish community is specifically about being Amish. It's about being in a relationship with God that is not hindered by external influences. Do I think they've maybe gone a little past, normalcy? I'm an IT guy, so I really can't say a whole lot. Yeah, I've spent the last 4 days doing nothing but interfacing with an AI, trying to figure out how to solve problems, and my brain has suffered for it. They're not always that bright, especially if you introduce an idea and it was your idea, they take your idea and claim it as their own, and that really upsets me.
That
So
makes them smarter.
it's like, no, I know that's what it's supposed to do. I'm the one who told you that, Anyway, why did God send them to the wilderness of Sinai? If you go to the wilderness, you are left with having to confront yourself. You become front and center. How many of you would rather have your parents talk to you about something or just get in trouble, take the spanking and move on?
Latter, we'll just take the spanking and move on.
My kids, they were always, I never spanked my kids. And that was a choice that I made. Kay did not make that choice, but I did, that I could not hit them. And that's because that's a chain that needed to be broken in my family. But that doesn't mean they got away with everything. You know, they got to talk to dad. And Alex and Max just always have said, I just wish you would have hit us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Get the pain over with.
And he's like, just hit us and move on, you know? And we don't have to analyze everything. We get it. We know why we did it. So, well, then just tell me why you did it. Well, you know why we did it. Well, that's not the point. I want you to explain it to me. You know, let's talk this through. What can we change? We don't want to change. I know you don't want to change, but we have to make changes. And they're, you know.
Kind of sounds like you and the AI.
Yeah, exactly. Well, sometimes I believe they had artificial intelligence, but that's a whole different issue. They thought I had artificial intelligence too. They came over and helped me do some work yesterday. And they've been working out in the field, you know, digging ditches and running wire and cable and all kinds of stuff. And I didn't have to watch them. I mean, it was just like, all right, guys, here's the job. You need to go do this. And they just took out the shovels and the stuff and they started working on it. And it was like, I have trained children. This is awesome.
Probably had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, yeah. And well, I mean, I'm glad someone finally got through to them because I've been trying for years.
Cecily and Chrissy always said, I'll be happy to do that, but I need to get paid.
Yeah.
And Chrissy didn't understand why they didn't pay her to go to school because really, you know, she was there and doing what they told her to.
There you go.
So,
Facing you. Facing yourself is the biggest struggle you will ever have. Why?
Can't run away from them.
you can't believe what you see there.
You can't run away. You don't like what you see there. If we come to the realization that we don't much like ourselves, or we see that we're doing things that we're not necessarily happy with, who's responsible for making the change?
You are all by yourself.
Why?
Your wife. Yeah, there you go. Yes.
Thought it.
Well,
That was a loud thought.
it was a loud thought. There you go. I heard that thought all the way up here. How do you face the reality of who you are and still have something that resembles a personality? Do you ever scare yourself?
When they asked us to jump out of an airplane with a parachute on, and you're about 10,000 feet, and you wished you hadn't got on the airplane.
That
Going down is not bad.
The landing that kills you.
And, but when you
it's not the fall, it's the sudden stop.
Then nobody got hurt or anything. That was one of the requirements of the military.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
You had to jump once.
Yeah, everyone had to go to jump school once, you know.
Yeah.
Jim, did you ever jump?
No, I was thinking about, training, this is it, and how to think about landing. But, I was in an airplane, so you didn't expect to, in the airplane.
If the pilot and his crew jump out, who's going to fly the plane? That can be a problem.
Didn't make you jump out in the airplanes, did they? Cause I told you not
Yeah.
to leave the ground.
You wouldn't let them.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
told you not to, you're free not to leave.
My
the
wife gave me a note. I do not jump out of airplanes.
ground. Do not ride, they have free ride.
Both
There you go.
girls did.
I'm headed over to Vietnam, and my job could either be flying around in the 130 and viewing,
View-
viewing what's going on, or sitting on the ground and going and looking at pictures.
Right.
Somehow she talked to him to keep me on the ground.
There you
Yeah,
go.
do not. But
Said
then, you
he
know.
can't load the camera. Don't let him in there. You know, just let him read the pictures. We're good. Since we're already down this rabbit trail, I was actually watching a U.S. Army video this week, a training video, and they had, the regular crew, everyone was jumping out. There's 12, 13 guys in a line, boom, 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 boom. They just all run out the door, right? Well, one of them got his arm wrapped around his jump cord,
Oh dear.
and that's what causes the chute to come out. So when he gets out of the plane, the jump cord wrapped around his arm and the chute didn't deploy, but he's literally hanging outside the plane,
Oh, no.
just bouncing off the fuselage on the outside by this arm. And it shows the airplane crew pulling him in by the jump line that's wrapped around his arm. And they bring him into the plane and throw him on the floor, and he's just screaming. And I could see why, because I mean, it literally probably broke his arm in 3 or 4 places. But anyway, it was a unique
Wow.
viewing experience, as they say. Um, so the idea of going out to a place of wilderness, getting away from the things that distract us, distract us from facing who we are and where we are and what our place in life truly is. How many of you are still trying to figure out what your place in life truly is?
I am. I thought I had it at one time, but then I have a 17-year-old that keeps telling me, back off. That's not your place.
I think
You know,
we've got a median age here of what, 76? Median. I mean, you would take everyone's numbers and
average it out.
average them out, what, 76, somewhere in that area? And how many of you are still working on trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life?
No.
Is that
I'm trying to
important?
figure out what I'm gonna do with my life when I can't do what I'm doing right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Exactly. Um,
It's a sad deal, most people phone company, we've got a lot of them. Have you seen Bob last week? No? Well, his wife wants to know where he's at.
Oh dear.
He's dead in the office. It happens.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Cause like where I work, I work in all the big buildings and I'll be the only one at 1425 open. There's over 5,000 people in that building.
yeah,
In the past.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And yeah, in fact, I was watching some videos the other day about the start of the bell companies and how they, the whole thing. It was very
they were
interesting.
very innovative and all that,
Yeah.
but not anymore. They pay vendors to be innovative. for them.
Exactly. So we're coming back to what they're saying here. In the first month of the second year after the departure from the land of Egypt, the Lord told Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, the Israelites are to observe the Passover at its appointed time. You must observe it at its appointed time on the 14th day of this month at twilight. You must, you are to observe it according to all its statutes and ordinances. So Moses told the Israelites to observe the Passover, and they observed it in the first month on the 14th day at twilight in the wilderness of Sinai. Remembering that before, this is year 2, right? So this is in the second year. When they came out of Egypt, God brought them out to Mount Sinai. And they had a grand spiritual experience. The people went up to the mountain on whole. All of the people went out, and it said that the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God, moved over the people, proved to the people in their soul and in their heart that they were unique, that they were special. They didn't pass out ayahuasca, mind-altering drugs, and make everyone drink them. They all came together as one community, and God came to them and said, "You are my people. Decide. Who will you follow today?" And the people said, "We will follow you." A very non-standard event in history. This was a true supernatural experience. A supernatural experience where God himself presented and said, "I am God. What will you do?" Yet how many people did not follow? How many of you remember the movie The Ten Commandments? Edgar G. Robinson. "Yeah, you and your people, we're all out in the wilderness. Why, Moses, did you do this to us?" I know that's a really bad Edgar G, but you knew who I was talking about, didn't you? The idea that there were people who did not want to give up the reality of being in charge and being in control. A people who went along to get along, but there were people there who made a concerted effort to be one with God. Verse 4. So Moses told the Israelites to observe the Passover, and they observed it in the first month on the 14th day at twilight in the wilderness of Sinai. The Israelites did everything as the Lord had commanded Moses. But there were some men who were unclean because of a human corpse, so they could not observe the Passover on that day. These men came before Moses and Aaron the same day and said to him, "We're unclean because of a human corpse. Why should we be excluded for presenting the Lord's offering at its appointed time with the other Israelites?" Moses replied to them, Wait here until I hear what the Lord commands for you." Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, when any of you or your descendants is unclean because of a corpse or is on a distant journey, he may still observe the Passover to the Lord. Such people are to observe it in the second month, on the 14th day at twilight. They are to eat the animal with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They may not leave any of it until morning or break any of its bones. They must observe the Passover according to all statutes. But the man who is ceremonially unclean, the man who is ceremonial clean, is not on a journey and yet fails to observe the Passover, is to be cut off from his people, because he did not present the Lord's offering at its appointed time. That man will bear the consequences of his sin. Wow. Why was it such a big deal that you couldn't go to the Lord's Supper? That's what this is. Keeping it in Baptist terms, it's effectively the Lord's Supper.
Kind of humiliating in a way. People know that you are banned from that.
Well, exactly. I mean, you're at church, you're there. Everyone else is doing it. You didn't, it wasn't your fault that, you had to bury this guy. Someone had to do it. They were family. You couldn't, or they were, you know what I mean.
Mhm.
So they went to their priest and said, "What can we do?" And he said, "Well, I tell you what, we'll just do this twice. We'll do it once for all the people that are in a place where they can do this, and then we'll come back a few weeks later and do it again for those who missed it." That's how important it was that you observed this. Why is the observation of a ritual where you present yourself to God to look at yourself spiritually and physically and say, "I am out of communion with God. I need to fix this. Today is the day that I fix myself before God"? Why is that so important? What is the Lord's Supper? What do we do?
You eat the bread and drink the wine, partake of the.
It goes
body
back.
and-
It goes back to Passover. It is a Passover ritual, except Christianity took it and made it from a Passover ritual to um, the Lord's Supper. I mean, and we actually take it and use it. The sacrifice is at the table. The sacrifice is Jesus Christ. He gives to the people of his body, and that's the bread. So you take of the bread, and then you take of the wine, which is representative of the blood. Now, why would you? I mean, one of the first things people say is these Christians are cannibals. They're eating the blood and body of their God. Thoughts?
Well, that still makes me a little uncomfortable when you put it that way. But, you're supposed to forgive anybody that you have an issue with. And
Including yourself.
clean your mind and your thoughts,
Right?
not before you take communion.
Right. It's your reset. Yeah, I mean, everyone gets a free reset, right? You can have a reset whenever you want it, but this one is a corporate reset. What does it mean to have a corporate reset?
A lot of people there.
As a church.
Yeah, as a community, all of us are coming together. If we have a problem with the person sitting next to us, what are we to do? Resolve it. And the idea is that we understand that while we might disagree with one another, who's in charge? God. God is in charge. And if we think we have the answer, God will agree with us. But does that mean you get to terrorize the people around you by saying, "Look, I was right. I was right. You were wrong. Oh, oh." But do people do that?
Right, so.
The communion, and that's what this communion is between you and God. It was so important that he allowed them, if you missed the first one, we'll have another meeting. God will come, we'll be there. Remembering that for Christianity, the concept of God just being there is a very, very unique belief. That is the entire purpose of the day of Pentecost. The day of Pentecost was the day that the Holy Spirit came and said, "My soul will dwell with you daily." You have the capacity to go to the Holy Spirit at any time and any day in any form or shape and say, "Father, Son, Spirit, let's evaluate where I'm at today. Am I in your will or am I in my will? Whose will dominates today? Are there days that you will tell God, I'm too busy for you.
Sure.
Sure, you've had your hand up a bit. I'm sorry.
I read an article recently about communion for the Lord's Supper. About, I think we as Baptists, we do it, most churches, like quarterly,
Mhm.
or, and then there's the Catholic Church that every time you go, you have
When the
to.
doors open,
Yeah.
you're there.
And,
Lutherans are the same way.
yeah, and talking about, um, how we look at it, and maybe we should be having it more often, and I think we avoid the idea of rituals,
Exactly.
and Baptist churches or most Protestant churches.
Well, look at Judaism. They only did it how many days a year? Twice. Once is the main event. The second one is for those who missed it. And after that,
But
you're
I
done.
think that communal ritual is important. Um,
well, and I think that's what I'm trying to get at is that wilderness of Sinai is what we are trying to establish every time you have the Lord's Supper.
Yeah.
You have the people of the church coming together in a common mind, all of the people coming together and saying, we recognize that we as a people serve the Lord. This is where we all get our minds right. And we decide what needs to be fixed in us as a community and in us as an individual. Both must be addressed. Can a church body be at war with itself?
Sure. Conflict of interest. There's a lot of people with a lot of opinions and it's gonna happen.
And how is that going to get reconciled?
By
you're worshiping together and
Making compromise, evaluating, perhaps my ego is writing a check. Anybody here ever wrote a bounce check on your ego?
couldn't quite cover that.
I've bounced a couple of those checks in the past. Let's go back for a moment. We were talking about the Holy Spirit. Today, you are free at any point in your existence to stop and say, I'm done. I'm done. I'm going to God right now, and we're going to settle this. God, I am broken. I don't know what to do here. And you're free to have that discussion with God at any point. You're free to say, help me decide how I can survive in this community. How can I help these people when I don't like them? How can I help myself when I don't like me? What can we do, God, to better the circumstances between you and me? How can we get clean? We have that because at the day of Pentecost, the Holy Spirit is now available for anybody, anywhere, anytime. That was the uniqueness of the day of Pentecost. Now, what did you do before that? The Holy Spirit was available on what day? Or the day of Passover, right? The Holy Spirit made an effort and said, we will have a supernatural event one time a year. And you must participate. If you're out of town, what does it say? If you're out of town and you are clean ceremonially, if there's no reason that you can't do this, what happens?
Because,
You'll be cut off right there at the verse 13. But the man who is ceremonially clean is not on a journey and yet fails to observe the Passover is to be cut off from his people because he did not present the Lord's offering at its appointed time. that man will bear the consequence of his sin. You cannot avoid God. If there's no reason you can't present yourself to God once a year, you're just too busy. You have to stop. And that's what the Passover was. That's why the Passover today is still so important in the Judaic community. Passover is the day the Holy Spirit has literally a supernatural event where he presents himself to each person and they are free to spill their guts, so to speak, before God. All right. So Christianity has the same thing. We have Passover. We tend to have it, well, Easter and Passover are usually in the same time frame because why? When was Christ crucified?
After Passover.
Yeah, just before the Passover, right? Yeah, or getting ready. They were together and Passover for the Passover itself, so they're going to overlap when that happens. But after the day of Pentecost, there was no need for that because you are free to come and go with God as you will. There's technically no reason why you can't have Passover with God every day. Why is it so important to teach your children to pray at night?
It helps them relieve their fears of the day and look forward to better tomorrow.
Thank you very much. That's the perfect prayer. Right? And the concept of that prayer is literally to come to a reconciliation with God that tomorrow will be better, or it will be just as good. The idea that we commit ourselves to God daily. And one of the things I asked you earlier is how many of you have ever looked at God and said, today is just not the day? I just can't deal with you today. I mean, be honest. How many of you have ever just looked at God and said, I just need a day off? I can't focus on whether or not I've been a kind, decent, normal, wonderful human being today. I just want to be mad. I want to have a little pity party over here, and you're not invited. It's my party of which I am pitying. We all do it. How many of you have ever, there was a comedian who had a show, and on the show, he was standing before his family, his brother-in-law, or his brother and his sister-in-law, and he's screaming at them, I don't know why I'm yelling at you. You people are the most important people I've ever known in my entire life. There's nothing in our relationship that I respect more than you. You are, to me, the most loved thing in the world. Now leave me alone.
That's like when you call into work and you can have a personal day,
Yeah.
but you really just can't tolerate those people
Yeah.
one more day.
I mean, when you're screaming at your loved ones, I love you. You have made my life the best that it could possibly be, but I am done with you today. There's a lot of married people in here. I know you know what I'm talking about. That idea that sometimes we separate ourselves from God, but we always come back. All right, that's it for today. Thank you for being here, and we will follow up next week.
Thank you.